gentlemen and ladies. The real property and environmental concerns. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have anyone? Ennis, a second?
Peter.
Going once. Peter?
I'm easy.
All in I'm not going to even touch that. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Lexi?
Okay, first under actions is to enter into a new contract with an auctioneer for our services for the county tax sale. I have included in there the tab sheet from our purchasing department. So if you look at that, it'll tell you what everybody came in. We do not, just so you all know, we do not pay our auctioneer. Our auctioneer is paid through a buyer's premium. And so just want you to all be aware that it's not any money coming out of the county's pocket to pay for this contract that we enter into with them. So the lowest one was Auctions International. We used them back when Mike was the director, and I think it was maybe my first year or first 2 years. And then the third bidder, which was the 7%, which is Brostech, that was the current auctioneer that we were using and have for the past, I think it was 3 years. I was very happy with Brostech. However, Auctions International came in as low bid. The second bidder had the same buyer's premium, but they wanted to charge us a $500 withdrawal fee. So any parcels that we may pull out for some reason, whether it be letting somebody pay up until the auction, they would have an extra $500 added on to their fees because of that. So the low bid is usually who we recommend to go with. I have drafted a resolution for that. I love the auctioneer that we've been using in the past, but I think because of the low bid, we have to recommend to go with the low bid.
Is there no track record?
Professional service.
And we don't
Okay, do we have a motion to approve it, Gene?
I just have a question.
What's up?
If you like that other bidder, and I know we've been using the last couple of years.
I'm very happy with them.
The best value that's now, sometimes, if you think that's something to do. That's what I was looking for. You know,
I had a question also about that. Is there a difference in the services provided in any of these? Is 10% any different than 6%?
No, I mean, because what we asked for in the RFP, they can all meet what we asked for.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Can we get Brian maybe weigh in on
I talked to Julie Butler a little bit, and I will have some further conversations with her. If that's the sense of the committee, we will see if there's some legitimate, lawful way to do that.
Yeah, Craig?
Yeah,
The Auctions International was used before,
yes,
yes.
and they did a satisfactory job?
yeah, more.
They had, well, it's just that there was a little bit of an issue because it was a change in directors. He continued to contact Mike when Mike was the treasurer and didn't really want to work with me. So it made it a little difficult, but then it went out for RFP, and back then is when it changed and went to Brostech. So 7%.
And what did they charge last year?
Same thing, 7%. Yeah, and for the past 3 years, I believe it was 7%.
So what would the committee like to do? Do we want to, when do we have to have this done, Lexi?
Well, the sooner the better, just because of timing. I mean, they have to go out, well, they don't go out until September to actually post the properties for the auction and take pictures and put the brochure together. That all happens in the beginning of September for
We
them.
can wait a month then anyway. Is that right?
We can. I just think that Julie's recommendation was you have to prove the best value, and I think you would have to prove why Auctions International wouldn't be your choice, you know?
Is there a motion?
Dennis? Well,
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the Brosnick's bid and verify that we can do it as a best situation, pursue that, have an esteemed attorney figure out if that's going to be all right.
would you want to amend it to go with the other one if that doesn't hold to be true?
I would be willing to do that, yes.
Okay, so we have a double. We have a second? Hey, Gene? Oh,
I got a question.
good question.
I mean, but the 7% is paid by the people.
It's paid by the
It doesn't
people.
come out of the county, so that 7% is not...
It's an RFP or bid.
Considered best value for the county, because...
Can't we negotiate an
The
RFP?
county doesn't get anything extra.
That's right, so we're looking out for the people that are buying as well.
No, we can negotiate an RFP. Was this a bid or an
It was
RFP?
an
I'm gonna pay an extra $100 for $100,000.
Gentlemen?
1,000. Did I do that wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's $100 for every 10,000 more.
Every 10,000.
That's right. So it's 1,000 for another every 100,000. That's the difference.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah, it is.
Well, $20,000 would be $200, right?
Correct. Yep.
What is the average
Let's ask the director
price
here.
of
Yeah.
Lexi?
They can go from
I'm
anywhere
sorry.
from
What's the average?
$5
What's the average price of a property sale?
At the auction?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there is no average. I can't even go there. We had a property this year that nowhere did we ever expect would sell for $249,000, and it did. It was a vacant piece of land on Corinth Road that used to be commercial, industrial, I believe.
That's right.
So, and then we've had stuff that sold for $25.
How much did
So
we bring in last year?
I did not bring those numbers, but it was it was 600 and some odd $1,000, and then by the time we took out the taxes, it brought it down to just under a $500,000. It was like $460,000.
Price.
So the 249 property would be $249.
Plus, they pay the 7% buyer's premium on top of that.
I was taking the difference between 6 and 7.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So-
Amanda's gone to see if she can find Julie so we can resolve this quickly.
Right, the big thing is that Julie had stated to me was that you have to, she thought that under the law, that you would have to, that we look out for the taxpayers of the county. So she feels that because these people are going to become taxpayers, is it to the best interest to charge them the more instead of the less?
And the services are, the
Same.
service will be the same.
Mhm.
And there's no reason to think that Auctions International would not provide services to the county that are deficient in any way.
No,
Well,
they're all pretty much the same.
Well, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we go with Auctions International.
We have a second, Ken. All in favor? Oh, we have a question?
Sorry.
Claudia?
Did we already try going back to them, the Brosnick people, and asking them to come down?
I don't think you can
You
do
can't
that.
do that. You can't do that.
See, I thought you could on an RFP.
Then I may be misinformed.
You can't do that on an RFP?
Not to my knowledge, but Julie would have to answer that for us.
That's something I guess you'd have to ask Julie or Brian.
What's the point of an RFP? I mean, why
That's
don't we
right.
use the phone, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the way I understand it is if you're going for a professional, it's the qualifications, not the price. And that's what, is that correct?
In a case where there's like services, you're looking at the price and it's not a different service. For example, we have done projects here before where we have negotiated with proposals based on the scope of the proposals as opposed to a set price for one particular service, which I think is the case here.
All right. I guess we have our answer.
Yeah, okay, never mind.
Is everybody set? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll leave it all up to you.
Great. All right, second is to enter into a contract of sale to sell 145 Alderbrook Road. We had a piece of property that did not sell at our tax sale. We also had an individual living in the property. It was a mobile home, kind of a hardship case. There's no electricity to the property, no running water at this time, and there's a lot of, I don't necessarily want to call it garbage, but junk on the property, and so it did not sell. The guy who wanted it went and saw the property, who was the successful bidder at the auction, talked himself right out of it when he saw it. So, and the second bidder was not interested. So we put a bid out, or put a proposal out, I guess, or however you want to say it, to get some bids on this property, because Brian had drafted up to evict the person that was living there, had sent notice and filed for action in the town of Bolton Town Court. We put this out and we did get some bids on the property. On the day of the board meeting, we opened the bids. We have a successful bidder of $10,000 for this property. There is $4,342.64 owed on the property. So we're just looking to be able to sell this to the successful bidder for the $10,000.
How big is it?
It is 6.53 acres.
I'll make a motion to that.
Do we have a second? Peter?
I just have a question. What was the original bid that the guy backed out of?
I want to say it was 15,000. Yeah. And we always, at our auction, we tell people, buyer beware. If you didn't do your homework, please don't bid on properties that you know nothing about. The gentleman that was the successful bidder bid on this property not knowing what he was really bidding on. And the day of the afternoon of the auction, he drove up there to the property, and he got a real eye-awakening when he saw the property. It's in very rough condition. Mike and I have both been to the property, and
Is there a structure on the property?
there is a mobile home.
But it's an old one, it's one of those ones that you can't move anymore, you'd have to demolish it, and it's in tough shape. There's no electricity, there's no running water, the guy's using a kerosene lamp and a wood stove. He's living there, and actually the county, we own the property right now. So I talked with Brian about this, and I said, this is a liability that we really don't need to deal with. So that's why we started with the eviction notice, and that spurred this whole deal. I think that, now correct me if I'm wrong, Lexi, but the guy who put the bid in is some kind of relative of the
He's actually the stepfather to the guy who's living there. There was him, there was another guy who actually lived down the road further, who was our second bidder. They were both willing to work with this man and allow him to continue to live there. The guy doesn't have anything. He's lost his job somewhere along the way. He does get services through social services. He just doesn't have a lot. He cuts wood here and there to sell to get some money. So both of them were willing to work with him and allow him to continue to live on the property. It's just that Kenneth Baker, which is the stepfather, was the one who had the high bid.
Yeah, Claudia?
Is the $10,000 to cover the taxes? Or do they have to pay up the taxes as well?
No, the taxes will be taken care of. It was something that we foreclosed on in October, so we're the actual owners.
Right.
Now, does that cover all of our costs, or is
The
that?
$10,000, yes, because there was, as of today, it was only $4,342 and change.
We also have legal,
Yeah, but any of that would be included in there. They will also pay any of the recording fees at the time, once the closing happens through the county attorney's office. They will write a separate check for the filing fees to the county clerks for the New York State fees and the county fees.
okay.
So,
Well, we have a motion, do we have a second? Yeah, Craig?
Was it already
Oh, it's not
seconded?
Peter, second.
Oh, Peter?
Whatever.
Okay, we have 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
okay, next is standard housekeeping, approve the chargebacks that are attached. Most of these are pilot agreements, so this is so that the county can account for their portion. And the one on the second page was a piece of property in Chester. The exemption was incorrectly calculated, so they're just adjusting for the exemption calculations.
Remind me how, what's the deal here on these pilots?
Pilots are a payment in lieu of taxes,
That's right, yeah.
so they don't receive a tax bill like everybody else does, so they make payments through the IDA, and then this is general housekeeping so that the county treasurer can have his books justified to accept this money in.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with the airport. Okay, Claudia, your motion? We have a second. Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
Yep, further down, just some information to discuss, which is our Johnsburg property, the old Mosier Garage, that I'm sure you're all aware of. We keep plugging away at this. We've been in touch with DEC. Brian's actually reaching out to an attorney in DEC down in Albany to look to see what exactly and how exactly we can go on the property to clean up. We only had temporary incidents of ownership, which I don't believe, according to Brian, gave us the right to actually go on the property to do cleanup. Brian can probably answer that better.
The temporary incidents of ownership allow us to evaluate the status of the property as far as any contamination. They don't allow us to remediate it. It's pretty clear in the statute. There's a distinction there. I did speak to a gentleman who's the director of the bulk petroleum storage unit at DEC, and he believes there may be a way for us to, because we're willing to pay for the cleanup, may be able to enter into an agreement with DEC that would allow us to do the cleanup as part of he'd call it an unfunded remediation project, meaning we would get the right to do it. Normally that only comes with state money, but they may be able to do it without the state money. So we're working on trying to do that. If we don't, then we would have to wait until we owned it to do the cleanup. And this way, we may be able to do it prior to the auction and be able to unload it cleaned up. So that's what we're trying to do.
Without taking ownership.
Right.
I worked with Todd Beadnell up in DPW and got a request for a quote together. I do have a list from DEC. All these ones highlighted in pink are the ones that can actually do tank removal. So once we find out more from DEC, we can put this request out to get some quotes to have the tanks removed, but I don't really want to put it out until we hear back from DEC and know what we can really do with the property.
Now, do we get insurance or anything to cover ourselves when we're doing that particular action?
The cleanup?
Yeah.
The company that would win the quote would have to provide insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other?
I just had one quick question. I don't know if there's been any further action as it related to the piece of property in Queensbury, it's on Bay, near the Hannaford...
The Mullins property on Bay Road?
Is that the Mullins property?
Yeah.
On the bike trail, yeah. I had someone ask me about that the other day.
It's
Well-
it's in the process. I mean, Lexi can answer this too. We've done phase 1 and 2.
Yeah, we need to do some site characterization work there. However, we've had another person reach out to us interested in maybe taking on the project himself. He's possibly interested in purchasing. He said he'd be getting back to us, but he had also reached out to DEC. We gave him Russell Hike's name, and he reached out and talked to him. Don't know if he reached out to you last to let you know where he was standing. I thought he had more work to do. He said research before he moved further, but that he would be getting back in touch with us.
So we kind of put it on hold, waiting for this guy, because if
This
he
is the
does
second guy.
decide that he wants to purchase it, then that eliminates a lot of our problems.
What kind of timetable are we talking about, Mike?
Depends
well,
on when
last
we hear
time I
back
talked to
from
him,
him.
it'll probably, we're the 1st of May, so he should be getting back to us within the next couple of weeks, because he said it would be the first week or 2 in May that he would be able to let us know for sure whether he was going to be able to proceed, so.
Is that a property that would go to auction based on...
If we ended up taking it, yes, but we wouldn't take it until we finished the site characterization, and then again, we may end up in the same boat with the cleanup and seeing how that would have to be done.
But I can't imagine this guy making an offer until he really got some definitive information as it related to site cleanup.
He was pretty aware. We let him see our Phase 1 and Phase 2. He's reached out to Craig Brown in the town of Queensbury to see if he could put there what he wanted to, and Craig confirmed that he could. So, and like I said, he spoke with DEC to see what would need to be done or how things would have to be handled. We're just kind of waiting for him to get back to us and see if he wanted to proceed forward with it.
Just off the top of my head, your head, the amount of money involved in this piece of property, it's been sitting out there for quite a while.
I don't know the taxes off the top of my
Right now,
head.
the current tax is about $205,000
I was going to say they're up there.
Taxes stopped several years ago. We basically made the property tax exempt, so the tax bill wouldn't keep, just keep going, because every time the tax bill goes out, the county has to pay the school in the town, right? So we made it tax exempt, worked the deal with the assessor to make it tax exempt. That was probably 7 or 8 years ago, just to stop that. So the tax bill was stopped, other than the fact, I think there's a water return, water or...
There might be, I'm not sure.
But anyway, so that's where it's at. It's a little over $200,000 on the tax bill.
Ron, you had a question?
How dirty was the site?
You know,
you've done 1 and 2, so...
It's not that bad.
According to DEC, when Russ Hike reviewed the reports, he did not feel that it was that bad. He just requested that we do a site characterization and get some water samplings of the ground, but he didn't feel it was that bad. He actually at one point had told us that, if there was an interested party, he'd be willing to sit down and meet. He was even willing to sit down with Bard, but Mike had reached out to them and they had stated that they weren't interested.
So what's the value? If they owe $200,000 on the property, what does this guy want to buy it for?
He's trying to work out a deal with Mullen, the son, because the father passed away several years ago. I really don't think that's my business to
No,
state what that
no.
deal is, but it's not, it's minimal amount of money. They have a side deal working about tearing down the building, so, but I think, what he was paying the Mullins is nothing, basically.
So who would pay the $200,000?
Well, that's where the sticky point gets. Do we, if they have to pay that $200 and some thousand in taxes, it means that there's going to be no deal.
If we were to take that in foreclosure process, those taxes would end up getting wiped out. So the person that purchased it still would not be paying the price of those outstanding taxes if we took it and foreclosed on it and sold it at a tax sale in October. I mean, the county usually makes their money on a whole, overall, on the auction. In cases like this where there's such a large amount, I mean, it, you know, just lessens the money that goes into the general fund. I mean, last year's auction, like I said, we made $600, after the taxes were taken out, it was down to like $460,000 that went into the general fund. So if this property was to have been sold, that money would have come out of that money that went into the general fund.
I can't imagine somebody at auction paying a tremendous amount of money
No.
for this parcel, mainly because of the demo costs that are going to be associated. I mean,
The building's not in good shape at all. Mike and I did an inspection, and it's in pretty rough shape.
Tear down.
yeah,
Pretty
it's
much a tear down.
So that's a good-sized building, you know, off the top of my head, you're probably talking $150,000 to tear the building down.
At one point, I had gone to see our bars and asked them if they had any interest at all in the property. I mean, they're the next-door neighbor, so to speak, and at the time, they were concerned that, you know, all of this, they'd have to demolish the building, and they didn't know what the
I
taxes
mean, if
were.
it was a clean, clear site and no building on it, they probably would pick it
Sure, I
up
would.
just to have the vacant land there next to it. But with all of with all the expense involved with it, that's the same thing they told me when I reached out.
They could have that outside.
All right, any other questions, comments? Frank? Oh, I'm sorry, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke to the treasurer last week about our, the remainder of our tax warrant, and he told me that the state of New York has not paid taxes on the state land as of yet.
Well, we have got the money and you should be getting your check.
So they have paid
Yes.
since last week.
Yeah, well, actually, I misspoke. They had paid several weeks before that and I didn't realize it, so.
Okay.
They were late, yes, they were late.
Never mind.
And I was hoping you would bring it up. I was going to talk to you after the meeting.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, anybody second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody not in favor? Peter's not in favor. All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Lexi.